And returning to Jim Comey, the author of Saving Justice, his new book. Mr. Comey, let's pick up where I just left off, where the vice president was in his own office right off the Senate floor. He'd been taken there only minutes before as the mob was breaching the Capitol. And then within seconds of him being detected by the mob, a very brave and smart Capitol Police officer, Eugene Goodman, diverted the approaching gang to another part of to the other direction of the floor. Just how dangerous? Well, I mean, how does this happen? What kind of a breakdown of security in the fact that they even let him stay in the chamber for as long as they did?
Well, it underscores both the heroic actions of an individual can make an enormous difference in life, how close we came to a bloodbath as a Secret Service detail would have been confronted by an angry mob, and how horrific the failure was to protect that hill, to keep that hill safe. It's ground that can be defended. It just wasn't defended. And that isn't a failure of imagination. That's just a failure. And so understanding how that happened, not because we want to headhunt or get people's jobs, but because we want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Doing that look back in a comprehensive way is going to be essential to our security.
We've got the inspectors general from several departments now getting into this, as well as the speaker today announced that General Russell Honore is going to be overseeing an investigation for Congress, as well as, of course, the relevant committees. Is that enough, or do we need a 9/11 style commission?
I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I don't want to prejudge it till I hear what they're all planning to do. But this spans branches of government, the executive branch and the legislative branch. The inspectors general for justice or defense or the intelligence community can't look at the piece involving the Capitol Police, and those looking at it for the Congress can't look at the executive branch. I think this is a big enough threat, an attack on the center of our democracy, that it's going to need a look that spans branches of government, something closer to a 9/11 commission.
What's your response to allegations that members of Congress themselves may have helped rioters by giving them tours days before, tours that are not available under COVID? Wittingly or unwittingly, I should say.
But the investigation has to include an effort to understand everybody who was involved, whether that was support, reconnaissance, funding, direction, planning. All of it has to be looked at. And I hope members of Congress weren't involved. But investigators have to stare at that very hard and try to understand it. And if they were, pursue it aggressively.
The attorney for Jake and Jelly, the QAnon shaman who also goes by the name Jacob Chansley, has been charged. He's been charged with violent entry, disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, and other charges that were added today. He says his client should be pardoned by the President of the United States. Now, as bizarre as that might seem, we know the president's record of pardons. Let me play a bit of the attorney, Albert Watkins.
He was there at the invitation of our president. Trump needs to stand up and own these people. He owes them an obligation. He has an obligation to them. He has an obligation to our nation.
And do what, Al?
Oh, give a pardon.
Jim Comey, what about that? That was an interview on CNN last night. What about the possibility that this president has the power to pardon this man?
Well, it's a dangerous thing to say that something is beneath even Donald Trump's ability to destroy the rule of law, but that would be a disgusting act. And I'm hoping even this president is above that. He's not above much, but pardoning those who attack the center of our democracy would be a despicable act.
There, of course, is a lot of speculation that he might pardon members of his family, close advisors like Rudy Giuliani, and himself, either today or in the coming days before next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that's within the realm of possibility. I would expect that he would at least consider that. I don't know how his kids would feel about a pardon, which carries with it, as our Supreme Court has said, an implication of guilt, an acceptance of guilt. I don't know how they feel about accepting guilt and getting a pardon. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see that. I gather he's not paying Rudy anymore. Maybe what Rudy really wants is a pardon. I hope it doesn't happen, but given this president and his disdain for the rule of law, I think we should be prepared.
And you told the BBC this week that President-elect Biden should consider pardoning Donald Trump. We know the ramifications for Gerald Ford after he did that. Why do you think that is something that Joe Biden should consider?
I think he has to think about that. I'm not saying he should do it. He has to think about it as he figures out the best way to heal this nation, both spiritually and physically, as we battle the raging pandemic. And one possibility would be for him to list all the many crimes of Donald Trump and then offer that to him as a pardon. And the acceptance of that pardon would be an admission of guilt. So I don't know how the disgraced former president would feel about it, but he at least should consider it as a possible way of moving the country forward and not letting Donald Trump occupy center stage as the new president tries to steer us in a positive direction.
At the end of your book, you say you don't think that the president should be prosecuted. Why not?
I wrote that and finished the book in the fall and said it was a very hard call. It's still a very hard call, although it's even closer today. If I were still a prosecutor, I'd want to prosecute him personally and put him in jail. But I'm not sure that's in the best interest of the nation. I'm not sure it's in our interest to give Donald Trump center stage in Washington, D.C. for another 3 or 4 years as United States versus Donald Trump moves along in federal court in D.C. and a president down the street is trying to renew and heal a nation. I think it might be better, although it's a close call, better to impeach him, convict him, bar him from future office, and let the local prosecutors in New York pursue him for the crimes he committed before we elected him president, but not give him the spotlight that he craves so much in the national interest.
The Attorney General in Michigan said last night that they viewed the Lansing attack last April, where they got into the Capitol there, and they were later, some leaders were later charged with an attempt to actually kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, that was a dry run, a dress rehearsal, if you will, and that some of the same instigators who had not been charged were actually at the U.S. Capitol. Yet, in a hearing last June, I believe, the Attorney General, William Barr, when asked about it by members of Congress, said he was not even aware of the attack on the Michigan Capitol. How is that possible?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. That Michigan assault, as I recall, was praised by Donald Trump in a tweet or comments or both. It was a bit of a dry run. It was part of the radicalization of those people that ended up attacking our Capitol, fueled by the lies, the winks, the dog whistles of Donald Trump and the people around him.
And how unprecedented is warnings that are now of attacks, potential attacks on all 50 state capitals?
I'm not aware of any analog in American history. It's deeply concerning. We have a situation, we live in a country with more guns than people, where we have many, many people who have been radicalized by constant lies about everything, the virus and our institutions, but especially about the lies about the election. And there, among that group of people who've been deluded are people who've been moved to violence, almost the way that an al-Qaeda motivates its foot soldiers with a constant stream of lies, telling them you're on the Lord's side. Well, there's people who think they're on the right side of history because they've been lied to by the president, his enablers in and outside of government. And that's a dangerous situation because they're all over the country and they're not Islamists trying to sneak into our country. They're here. They live all over the country and they're armed. That's a threat that we have to take very seriously. Now, we can protect our facilities all across the country as long as we have the right information and the will to do so. And I hope very much that we do.
James Comey, and thanks for all of these interruptions, as you can understand. But your new book is Saving Justice, and thanks very much. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks for
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.